Good evening, welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is FailCraft Casts. Hope you're well and good. It's Tuesday, Arena Tuesday, so we do what we do. We jump in, we pick a hero that you have chosen. So today on Twitter you voted for Paladin, out of our choice of Paladin, Hunter and Rogue. And then we're going to be jumping in, picking a deck together and then trying it out in the arena and blooding it in combat and seeing how we do. So this is a Paladin piece of artwork from the World of Warcraft trading card game for our slate, and it is entitled Divine Favour. Very appropriate given that we would love to be having some of those in our draft today. So let's jump in without further ado and let's get this show on the road. Righty then, Paladin picked. As we wait for people to start picking first card, we will go through what our usual method is. So we always review our deck 3 times throughout our 30 cards. The reason for stopping at various intervals to check it is so we can break down how it's playing and see what kind of stuff we'd like to put in. Is there a tactic, a theme or similar that we can follow? So we'll go for sort of roughly 8 cards in, 18 cards in, and then perhaps 24 cards in. It forces us to slow down and think. So that's step 1. Step 2, we always then take a look when we take a pause at the mana curve. Do we have lots of early game cards? Is it a rush deck? Do we have lots of more expensive late game cards? We're looking at a control deck. And then we look at split down of minions against spells to get an idea of what the deck looks like, and then we run through the mana curve. So breaking down your arena draft into that 3 or 4 steps will make sure that you review your deck regularly, you pick cards to adapt to your ever-changing deck rather than setting out with a theme and not being able to draft that. It can be hard when you set out and say, I'm going to make a Murloc deck, and you don't get Murlocs, and you pick some Murlocs, and then you suddenly find that you have a deck that's not really doing anything. So those are our 3-4 key tenets, and what we're going to do is jump in and start picking now. So we are a Paladin. Paladins, we can spawn lots of 1/1 token minions with our hero power, being of course summoning that 1/1 Silverhand Recruit for 2 mana. So things that buff minions will do us well. We also, as a Paladin, we've got some quite strong trades we can make. We've got Divine Shield as a mechanic that we might be able to use. So we can go aggro, we can grab weapons and go control, and then if there are nasty late game cards we can pick those as well. So what have we got here? We have Murloc War Leader. All other Murlocs have 2/1. A rush deck would be effective, but we're relying on Murlocs for that. Great if you want to go for a rushing picking Murloc deck. Big Game Hunter, destroying a minion with attack of 7 or more, well, great for removing late game minions. We probably don't want to get to late game. And then the Faceless Manipulator, choose a minion and become a copy of it. So if we do get to a mid game phase, this could be pretty useful. So between those 3, if I was thinking we were going for Murlocs, I would go for the Murloc War Leader. As it is, I'm going to go for the Faceless Manipulator because there are lots of situations that can come in handy. So the Frostwolf Grunt, the Dark Scale Healer, or the Kobold Geomancer. So Frostwolf Grunt, a 2/2/2 tank, which is pretty solid. The Dark Scale Healer, battle cry of restoring 2 to all friendly characters. Good for healing up. That's okay for the mana cost. And then the Geomancer with a spell damage of +1. Taunts are generally pretty strong and handy in arena. The Dark Scale Healer is not a bad drop for late-ish, mid-ish game sort of top up and heal of your minions, and it does have enough attack to do something. We don't really know whether we're going rush or mid game at the moment. I'm going to go for the Grunt for an early game taunt, and just because a 2/2/2 is quite solid. Right, next up we have an Omani Berserker, a Novice Engineer, or a Dark Scale Healer again. And good evening, Lud, and those of you folks tuning in. So, a Money Berserker, Enrage +3 attack, a nice solid early game attacking card. Unless it's taken out, you're probably going to do some damage with it. Novice Engineer does what it says on the tin, you draw a card and then it's probably going to perish. Last but not least, the Dark Scale Healer, which we've already gone through. The vote goes with Healer, and Healer is what we shall have. Next we have a Silverback Patriarch, a Loot Hoarder, and a Fairy Dragon. The Silverback Patriarch, the tanky gorilla. 1 attack, it's not going to be doing much damage. However, with the 4 health, it's going to stick around for a while. A good early game war. The Loot Hoarder lets us draw a card. If it doesn't die, we might do 2 damage, maybe trade away a small early game minion. But good for card draw. Card draw in card games are always great. And then last but not least, the Fairy Dragon. Can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. A solid 2/3/2, meaning that it's got a nice attack and health for its cost. Fairy Dragon is the choice. we have a Dancing Swords, an Ogre Magi, or a Mad Bomber. So the Dancing Swords, Naxxramas card of course, new. Death Rattle of your opponent drawing a card, so it has that negative side effect of your giving your opponent a card draw. But for 3 mana you get a 4/4 out very early in the game, so your opponent will try and control that probably as soon as possible. If they don't, then it's going to cause some trouble. The Magi, solid all-round stats for the spell damage at +1. We don't have huge amounts of spell damage as a Paladin, unless we really try and draft it, so that's worth taking into consideration. And last but not least, the Mad Bomber, the ever favourite of arenas, with a battle cry dealing 3 damage randomly split between all other characters on the table. It could be great, it could be terrible, we just don't know. So while folks in chat decide what they're going to be grabbing, we're only 4 out of 30 in so far. We'll do our first review at 9 cards and let people take their picks. Bomber has been picked. A little bit of random number generation is what you are fancying this evening. Next we have a Blessing of Kings, a Fairy Dragon, and that's a fairly solid 3 pick with an Acolyte of Pain rounding out the 3. So Blessing of Kings, give a minion 4/4 for 4 mana. You can just make something on the table. You can make a tiny minion big and ugly. You can make a big minion immensely fearsome. Fairy Dragon we've covered. The Acolyte of Pain, whenever it takes damage, draw. In Arena it's probably likely to take a couple of damage, not get wiped out in one turn, meaning you get a few cards out of it, but Blessing of Kings has been picked, so Blessing of Kings is what we're going for. We have a Blue Guild Warrior, a Guardian of Kings, a Leper Gnome. So the Blue Guild Warrior, a favourite of aggro decks the world over. Charge for 2/1, you'll throw it on the table, it'll do 2 damage to something, and then chances are with that 1 health it'll probably get knocked out, but it would have done its job. The Guardian of Kings, a late game addition for the Paladin. Low stats for its 7 mana, but you get the 6 health to your hero restore, which in some pallies can make the difference between life and death. Last but not least, the Leper Gnome, who aggroes, deals 2 damage to enemy hero, and then if he survives any longer than a turn or 2, he may do another 2 damage to something else. The Guardian has been picked. So next we have a Chill Wind Yeti, an Iron Forge Rifleman, or a Stoneskin Gargoyle. Chill Wind Yeti, a brilliant basic. You can get these from the beginning of the game for 4/4/5. It is good for its mana cost. It is awkward. When it drops in the game, it's got good attack and good health. It's going to do nasty things. The Iron Forge Rifleman, battle cry of dealing 1 damage. It may pick something off with a little sniping ability. And the Stoneskin Gargoyle, if it's not knocked out in your opponent's turn, it will get restored to health at the beginning of our turn. So I think there's some nice combos with the Gargoyle in terms of if you buff it to a crazy level, unless your opponent can knock it out in one go, it's going to sort of return bigger and badder. But the Yeti, it gets the nod. So we're up to 8. We'll grab 1 more card, and then what we'll do is do a quick deck review because we'll be a third of the way through. So next we have the Loot Hoarder, the Razor Fen Hunter, or the Storm Bike Commando. So Loot Hoarder draws a card we've covered. Storm Bike Commando, a bigger, badder version of the other dwarf with a gun that we saw. 2 damage for the battle cry, 4 attack, nice, 2 health, probably going to get knocked off the table, but it might do something. And the Razor Fen Hunter is a solid 3 for 2. 3 for 2? I'm thinking of 2 for 1. 3 for 2 would be interesting. So the battle cry of summoning that 1/1 boar means that you're going to get 2 cards on the table for the price of 1 in terms of its mana cost, giving you table position, more opportunity to trade and similar. And you've gone for Hunter, so a nice turbo pick there. We've turboed through. Oh, and a very nice pick for you next. I think I know what you're going to go for. I shall deck review where we are so far while you decide. Okie dokie, so because we're 9 cards through, remember at the beginning we said let's decide on where we are so far. We decided that we were always going to review our deck 3 times, so at 9 cards. First things first, let's look at the mana curve. We're pretty evenly spread from early game to mid game and late game at the moment. We have no real sort of bias towards an early game or a late game deck, I think. Next step, we then take a look and jump in, and what do we have in terms of minions against spells, or we have no spells or minions, and then how do we play through? Oh, we've got 1 spell, my bad. How do we go through? Well, we've got solid early game, we've got big chunky minions in the early game. Fairy Dragon, Mad Bomber, they'll do some damage. The Frostwolf Grant will give us a tank if we need it. We can go through with a Razorfin Hunter. Blessing of Kings can bust something up big and nasty. Chillwind Yeti, Darkscale Hunter. Chillwind Yeti will let us pressure. Darkscale Healer will let us heal up. The Faceless Manipulator gives us the opportunity to just copy whatever our opponent has on the table, or we can copy our own minions with that too. And then the Guardian of Kings gives us a late game heal if we need it. So I think at the moment we don't really have any bias. We've just got a strong core of deck. Whatever we're dropping at whatever time in the game is useful, so we'll see how it evolves over the next, say, 9 or 10 cards. Right, so while I've been yabbering on, we have a great choice here. 3 legendaries. Maexna, Baron Rivendare, or Tyrion Fordring. So Maexna is a great mid-game trading card, pardon the punnage, because anything that she damages with her spidery ways, any minion will get destroyed. So it doesn't matter how big it is. However, with her 8 health, she can probably kill a few things before she drops off the table. Next up, Rivendare, your minions trigger the death rattle twice. Brilliant if we have loads of death rattles, which we don't, but we could draw off death rattles if we wanted. Last but not least, Tyrion Fordring, the Paladin class legendary. Divine Shield, Taunt, Death Rattle, equip a 5/3 weapon, and you folks, I'm so happy that you've gone for this. I've gone for Tyrion, because Tyrion is the ultimate in many ways. There are a few Paladin decks that don't want him involved in some way or another, so he is really going to give us a solid core to our arena deck. If we get to the late game, then Tyrion is going to come in and really swing through. I'm looking forward to playing with him. So next we've got a Fen Creeper, an Ironbeak Owl, and a Bold Fist Olga. So we haven't had any of these three. The Fen Creeper, a solid mid-game tank, not going to be attacking loads, but the health makes it awkward. It's very awkward to remove at that stage of the game. Next up, the Owl, 2 attack, 1 health. It will get destroyed quick with that 1 health, but the silence is golden. Silencing any threat that your opponent has on the table, removing card text, getting rid of tanks, you name it. Ashbringer! Welcome, Umbra-Domo, and thank you for that bold war cry. I'm quite looking forward to grabbing an Ashbringer at the end of the game. So last but not least, Boulder Fist Ogre. Nothing to say about this, but it's a solid mid-late game card for its stats and mana cost. We can throw it down, it will do some damage, do some wrecking probably, before it gets destroyed. So what do you fancy? We shall wait. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing what we can do with Tyrion Fordring. I keep wanting to call him Tyrion Lannister, and I keep forgetting that the Tyrions, I believe, are spelt a little bit differently. Tyrion? Insert your Game of Thrones quote here. Okay. We do not have anything decisive. I'm going to jump in. Cheaper if no other taunts. Owl. Otherwise, let's go for an owl. We have a wolf rider, we have a gnomish inventor, or a Murloc Tide Hunter. Wolf rider, 3/1, charge in, 3 damage, doom, but we'll do something. Gnomish inventor, battlecry drawing a card, 4 health is semi-awkward, it will stick around for a turn or 2 probably before it gets knocked away. Can trade against aggro. Murloc Tide Hunter, another aggressive early game 2/1. Summoning that 1/1 Murloc Scout, you're just doubling things on the table. We still have the opportunity to take this deck rush or early game pressure if we get a lot of buffing cards. So we'll review at 18 cards through or 19 cards through to see how our deck is going. What do you guys fancy? That is the question. We could go aggro, we could go sort of a mid-game kind of deck. Late game is tough in Arena, but if you want to, we can give it a go, so make your choices. Tyrion disapproves of your pondering. Okay, I think we are going to go with, let's take a look. In terms of ties, I'm going to jump in and make a choice here. I think that looking at things, I think the Murloc Tide Hunter, the Gnomish for the card draw. I'm going to grab a Gnomish for the card draw, and the name has been agreed, so nicely done. Next we've got an Ardent Protector, another Fairy Dragon, and an Abusive Sergeant. Ardent Protector, give a friendly minion Divine Shield. Lovely stuff. 2/2/2 and a very solid ability. Fairy Dragon, equally solid. We've got 1. Do you want 2? It will make us very strong in the early game, certainly. And then last but not least, the Abusive Sergeant. So these are all early game choices. But the Abusive Sergeant can be thrown down at any point to give a minion 2 attack for 1 turn only. And what the Abusive Sergeant does is let you trade upwards. You can do more damage. You can pick off bigger and better cards from your opponent's side of the table for less mana. So it's designed to give you better trades, do more damage. Which might you fancy from those 3? Angling us a tad towards the early game. Indeed, I do agree. 3 very, very good choices. And evening, buddy. Bunny TSD. Hope you're well and good. FD, Fairy Dragon has been picked. So next we have a Shield Bearer, a Voodoo Doctor, or a Chillwind Yeti. So we've covered the Yeti. We've got 1. Do you want 2? Up to you. The Voodoo Doctor, right, while we throw it down, it restores 2 health. Don't forget that restores 2 health to a target of your choice. Could be a minion, could be a hero or heroine. And last but not least, the Shield Bearer. Throw it down, turn 1 or otherwise, and that's a meaty little tank to slow things down in the early game. Do you want healing? Do you want shielding? Do you want some nice mid-game pressure? Up to you. We'll do a full-on card review at sort of 18 or 19 cards through. At the moment, this could tip an aggro deck. This could, if we want to pad it out mid-game, we've got enough in the early game that we could try and bridge to a mid-game, and then we have got sort of the Brucey bonus of Tyrion Fordring and Guardian of Kings sitting in the late game. We'd like to finish the game before then, and these will be the icing on the cake rather than the things that we're relying on, perhaps. And welcome back. No worries on the D-Siege. Chill and Letty picked, and in we go. Next, we've got a Light's Justice, we've got a Hammer of Wrath, and a Shield Bearer. Hammer of Wrath being the card that people always want to pick in Paladin drafts, and has become a bit of a running joke when I accidentally didn't pick this card when it was requested. So Light's Justice, well, drop that in the early game and we are chipping away at aggressive early game minions with that. It doesn't do much damage, but if we're picking away low health minions, we can use that nicely. Hammer of Wrath, deal 3, draw a card for 4, control, card draw, all kinds of goodness. And then a Shield Bearer again, if we want to protect ourselves in the early game. And there is the call, and I think it's probably a couple of months since this card last came up when we last played a Paladin arena. The Hammer of Wrath has been selected. Moldy would be proud. Oh, next we've got another Light's Justice. Another Iron Becal, and another Dark Scale Healer. We are starting to get a few of the repeats. So we have covered all 3 of these cards. We want to be tapping stuff in the early game, having some very versatile and useful silences, or topping ourselves up, being very irritating in the mid game by healing and healing and healing. Up to you. Shout on the Oracle. Wait, Dark Scale, are you thinking of healer? I'm thinking the one that's closest to any of those 3, which should be called Oracle, is the healer. Unless I missed something in our last card round. Will you pick Justice, Iron Becal, or Healer? Oracle! Let's grab. And we'll wait for some chattage decision. I'm feeling quite good about this deck so far. I'm looking forward to our sort of 18-19 card review. Okay, well, to split the decisions, I think that we're quite well equipped in the early game so far. I'm going to drop in a Dark Scale Healer for some sort of mid-game controllers. Heals you and your minions. Gotcha. Next, we've got the Dragonling Mechanic. We've got Avenge. And the Spiteful Smith. Okay, 3 new cards. The Dragonling Mechanic, another 2 for 1 if we want to start stacking some pressure on. Again, it's got that 2/4, so it's not going to do huge damage, but it will stick about. And then the 2/1 Dragonling will do something. Avenge is a nice secret. When one of your minions dies, give a random friendly minion +3/+2. For 1 mana, that's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And that's one of the new Naxxramas secrets that is lots of fun. Last but not least, the Spiteful Smith. Well, we are a Paladin. We could be drawing weapons. We don't have any right now. But the Spiteful Smith, I really like for Arena. If there's nothing else or in an average pick, I always grab this because of the 4 attack, 6 health. It's like a big brother of a Chillwind Yeti, in my opinion. More health. It's got that Enrage, which can buff you. So we've got Avenge as the choice. Very nice. That will be awkward. Next, we've got another Spiteful Smith, a Flesh-Eating Ghoul, if I can type correctly, and Naruba Web Lord. Minions with Battle Cry cost 2 more. We have many Battlecry minions. I don't suggest the Weblord, but it's useful for denying your opponent in certain situations. The Flesh-Eating Ghoul, whenever a minion dies, gain 1 attack. If we can throw that down behind a tank, it can get big and nasty rather fast. And last but not least, the Spiteful Smith, which we've already covered. We have no weapons, but should you design to draft some, then it could be quite handy. Almost to the 19 card mark, folks. I can let you pick while we do a deck review. I cannot wait to get this deck going. If it continues the way it's been going, looking pretty shiny. And it looks as though the vote is going with the Ghoul. So you've got Holy Light, Blessing of Might, and Tazdingo. Yes, the Senjin Shieldmaster. Okay. Taking Holy Light, 2 mana, restore 6. That's a ridiculously mana efficient heal. Could do a lot worse than pick it. It's going to keep your Paladin awake in times of trouble. Blessing of Might for a mere 1 mana, giving a minion +3 attack. And then start trashing things. And then very similarly, like the Abusive Sergeant earlier, we use that to trade upwards. We'll be doing more attack for less mana. Last but not least, Senjin Shieldmaster, another brilliant basic. You get this basic at the beginning of the game. You will see, if you're a new player, the Senjin Shieldmaster drop into oh so many decks. A solid early mid tank that is awkward enough to be removed with some difficulty at that point in the game. So what do you fancy? A Holy Light, a Blessing of Might, or a Tazdingo? The reason he's Tazdingo is because that's the sound he makes when you throw him down on the table. Battle Cry sound. And vote for Tazdingo. And the Shieldmaster. Okay, well, you guys pick this card. I will do a deck review. Okay, we are 19 through, so let's grab it. Firstly, let's take a look at our mana curves. Right, well, we've got a real mid-game thing developing, lots of 4 and 5 mana drops, but also quite a bit in the early game. So lots early there, lots mid, not so much late. So we could be doing a mid-game deck, we could be doing a rush deck. We will see how that works out. Let's take a look at spells versus minions, our second sort of factor that we check after mana curve. We've got Avenge as a spell there, Stroke Secret, Blessing of King's Hammer of Wrath, 3 spells. A mere 3 spells compared to our 16 minions, making up our 19. So we're going to be using a lot of minion-heavy control and attack and sort of stats. We're not going to be lobbing lots of spells around. Say we're a mage. So, last off but not least, let's run through our curve, and then once we've run through a curve and seen what we could possibly play each turn, let's have a think about what we might want to pick, any strategy we might want to follow. So early game, we can throw Avenge down at any point, and that will buff up one of our minions and make it more nasty. 2 Fairy Dragons in the early game, great early game pressure. A tank in the Grunt. Owl can go down at any time for useful silence. Bomber can be there for fun, but also early game pressure. Ghoul can get big. Hunter for table position. Blessing of Kings can go on anything at any time. Wrath for control and card draw. 2 Chillwind Yetis, very, very nice. That is going to be, as Gollum is picked, I'm just going to throw up the next choice for the chat so we can keep things moving. And we can also continue our deck drafting while we go. 2 Chilling Yetis anchors the mid-game. No Mission Venter gives us card draw and control. Shield Master breaks the tempo and gives us a nice tank to protect ourselves. 2 Darkscale Healers. If we've still got minions on the table, we can heal them all up. A Faceless is our tech. We can use that to copy anything we have or anything our opponent has. Any nasty threats we can copy. Guardian heals us and gets table position, and Tyrion is our finisher if we need it by that point. So, taking a look at that and reviewing it, I think that we've got a really, really, really good, strong early to mid game deck. We can grab table control in the early to mid game with our minions and finish late with Tyrion, and then any spells that we draft can use to complement that. So I think roughly with 10 cards to go, our tactic is going to be picking cards that help us get pressure on and control the table in the mid game and early game, or maybe 1 or 2 cards that help us cement our control so that we can finish in the late game with Tyrion Fordring. With that last 3 pick between Twilight Drake, which is gets stronger for each card you have in hand, Welling Soul silences all your minions. I don't think we're going to use for that given we've got a lot of effects we want to use, and the Arcane Golem in for the charge and pressure. So the chat vote was unanimously for the charging golem. Interesting because we're not full on rush at this point, but this could be a good finisher for us. 2 choices here. Another Taz Dingo. Mad Scientist would be good, but we don't have loads of secrets. We've only got the 1. Tez Dingo would be a very solid overall choice, but people have gone for Consecrate for the area of effect, AoE, and also the control, so that does go with our theme of keeping the board under control in the early to mid game. Shattered Sun Cleric, a Blessing of Wisdom, and a Strangled Thorn Tiger, my enemy that I always seem to flare out of. So Shattered Sun Cleric, give a friendly minion 1/1, drop it, solid enough stats for 3 mana, will buff one of your other minions, is used in a lot of aggro decks. Could help us in our early game. Blessing of Wisdom, whenever a minion attacks, draw a card. We can drop that on our opponent's minions if we want, or we can throw it on our own. 4 card draw. Last but not least, the Stranglethorn Tiger is a 5/5/5 with stealth. It will not be killable or damageable directly until it attacks and pops out of stealth, but of course remember that area of effect spells, so things like Consecrate that does damage to all enemy minions or something similar, will do damage to it even when it's in stealth. Important to remember. So what do you fancy? A Cleric, a Blessing of Wisdom, and a Stranglethorn Tiger, 9 cards to grab, and then we're going to get into a couple of games just to see how your deck works in the wild. Cleric is getting some voting. I'm now just thinking of the few Game of Thrones quotes that are in my head from the book. Oh, we've got a split. We've got a Cleric and a Wisdom. I'm actually going to go with the Wisdom because I'm interested to see if we can get some more card draw from that. In a split situation, I get the votes. And now we have a Chillwind Yeti, a Kobold Geomancer, or Humility. The Yeti we've covered, the Geomancer we've also covered. Humility, change a minion's attack to 1. That will let us debuff and negate big face minion threats, and by that I mean ones that just do attack damage and swing in for large chunky damage. It may not get rid of their nasty abilities, but it certainly means that they're not going to be attacking us for quite so much. Yetis we have 2, one for Humility, the other for the Yeti. As I went with one side of the camp last time, I'm going to go for the other side and go for the Yeti, because I think that 3 Yetis is just going to be hilarious. If we get any combination of those out, I think that it's really going to irritate our opponent because they're just so awkward to remove. So Ancient Brewmaster, Leponome, and Stone Tusk Ball. We've covered the Leponome. The Stone Tusk Ball, we can charge in, do 1 damage, we'll get knocked out. Early game token. The Ancient Brewmaster, this is an interesting card with the battle cry of effectively bounce, return a friendly minion from the battlefield to your hand. This means we can pick something up and throw it down again for the battle cry. So, for example, we could throw that down, pick up anything, and then throw another minion down. You can use that to heal a big minion, of course. If a minion's about to die from the damage it's got, you can pick it up, throw it down again if you've got the mana, it will effectively be healed. You can reuse battle cries for drawing cards, you name it, restoring health. Pick any of these things with a battle cry. I vote for the Brewmaster. Okay, so given that we've gone one way the other way, we've got a split between the Brewmaster and the Yeti. Okay, we're going to go with the gnome, I think, to keep the fairness going. We're bouncing between you guys. Next we have a humility, an earthen ring farseer, and another avenge. Okay, we've got one avenge. Do we want two? Nice card. We didn't pick humility last time. Would you like it this time? The earthen ring farseer, throw it down for 3, 3, 3, 3, and then just to complete the set of 3s, it restores 3 health too. So a really strong card for its mana cost. The stats are solid, and then the 3 health heal is a Brucey lovely bonus. One for Farseer, the other for Avenge. Okay, so if we're bouncing, I like the thought of Farseer for some trades, but I feel that we've got quite a solid minion set, so I'm going to grab Avenge. I've got against the system Raid Leader, Light's Justice, or a Priestess of Elune. Okay, the Raid Leader gives our other minions +1. Light's Justice, again, third time we've seen that. We've not grabbed one yet, but early game minion control. Last but not least, Priestess of Elune. Battle Cry of restoring 4 health. So we've got the Dark Scale Healer that restores 2 to wall for 6 mana. That's a 5/4 that restores 4 health only to our hero, not to all minions. So that's another way of topping our health up if we want to. Now with a mere 5 cards to go, take a look at that mana curve. We are definitely reinforcing our early to mid game control picks, so good work there. I think we've got a good theme for our deck. And vote for the Raid Leader. Well, that's certainly going to give us turbo in the early game. With these last 5 cards, we could either really cement our early game. I think we need either early game control or early game minions. I feel quite good about this mid game, particularly with 3 Chew and Yetis, and some of the other stuff we have here. If we see any Defender of Argus or Sunfru Protector, I think we're really set. A really strong board that we can put down. Avenge plus the Interception Secret. Yeah, that could be hilarious. NJ. Is that LJ? I don't know what an NJ is. A confused vote. Nah, phone. Ah, okay, gotcha. Okay, in the interest of cracking on, a Raid Leader it is. Next we have a Bloodsail, Raider, a Light's Justice, or Avenge again. Should we go for 3 Avenge for total craziness? That could be so irritating. The Bloodsail Raider we will cover because it's R1 cards that we haven't had before. With a Battle Cry, it gains attack equal to the attack that we have of a weapon. Well, that's great, apart from rarely for a Paladin we have 0 weapons, so that's not going to be too dangerous at this point in time. Who knows? Light's Justice, Avenge. If we want to get really evil, I think we could get very irritating. Imagine if a couple of Avenge go off and one of our Yetis suddenly becomes +7/+7. Maybe then +10, +9. Oh, the evil we could commit with Avenge. The sheer irritation. Come on, you folks, what kind of mood are you in? I'd make a pretty strong case for Avenge. Far be it from me to step off my neutral pedestal and affect your voting, but I think Avenge is a really nice option. Yep, let's keep it going. Avenge is the one. Next we have Adventure Co. Mercenary. We have a Murloc Tidehunter or Direwolf. So the Adventure Co. Merc, your minions cost 3 more. And welcome Niska, good to see you with us, sir. That is a great mid-game choice in the Merc. Our minions will cost 3 more, but let's face it, we've only got 2 minions after 5 mana, and if we get either of those down, the Merc's probably dead by then anyway. Next, the Murloc Tidehunter, a 2 for 1 that we've already covered. Do we want more early game pressure? Last but not least, the Wolf. Adjacent minions have 1 attack, give us some more tradability. And with a couple of votes on the Wolf, you guys are now turboing through. Next we've got a Fairy Dragon, we've got a Dread, Corsair, or a Mad Scientist. So we've covered the dragon, we've covered the mad scientist. The mad scientist, note that we didn't pick it earlier because we didn't have secrets. Suddenly we've got a huge bunch of secrets. So the mad scientist is now pretty cool because we can pick one of those 3 Avengers. So suddenly it becomes strong. And then the Dread Corsair, brilliant taunt, costs 1 mana less per every attack you have of your weapon. But we have no weapon. As Umbradome called out, we've yet to draw a good weapon. Unusual for a Paladin. But we've got a couple of votes on Fairy Dragon. So the Fairy Dragon it is. Wow, 3 Fairy Dragons. We have an Azure Drake. Oh, now there are some nice picks here for you. We have a Azure Drake, a Divine Favour, and a Cold Light Seer. Cold Light Seer we'll deal with first. Give up all other Murlocs 2 health. That's great if you've got Murlocs, we have none. So I'll just put that out there for you to think about. Next, Divine Favour. Now draw cards until you have as many in hand as your opponent. I think with this deck, we should be able to cycle fairly well. Divine Favour and Constructed is a Paladin's great source of drawing cards. You basically play as many cards as you can and then draw loads in hand. But we are not a rush deck. We don't have huge amounts of cheap cards to empty our hand. Emptying your hand before Divine Favour is the big benefit. So I don't think we're really going to be hugely emptying our hand unless we have a... Oh, it's possible, but I don't know. With lots of early and mid, we're just going to be... I don't know when we're going to be in a situation to Divine Favour. Then there's your Drake, which is just a triple threat, as we always call it. It's got the spell damage, it's got the battle cry of drawing a card, and it's still a very solid singing, dancing, acting, 4 attack, 4 health minion for its stats. You guys vote for the Drake, and that is it. So that is our deck. Let's do a final review before we jump on into the game. So let's take a look at the mana curve. Lots of early to mid game pressure, not huge amounts of late. How do our spells look versus our minions? Well, we now have lots of secrets through Avenge. Blessing of Wisdom makes it a 4. We can then grab in with a Consecration 5, Hammer of Wrath 6, and then finally top up with a Consecrate. No, I think it's only 6 minions and a lot, 6 spells and a lot of minions. Finally, let's take a look through the deck and see what we play turn by turn. Avenge can go down at any point to start frustrating our opponents, but we generally want to Avenge down when we've got 2 minions on the table at least. So when one dies, the other gets buffed. If you play an Avenge and you've only got 1 minion, then you're wasting that effect, I do believe. So, Blessing of Wisdom, card draw. Early game we can throw down Leponome, Direwolf Alpha, 3 Fairy Dragons, ridiculous early game pressure with strong minions. Frostwolf Grunk for tanking, Alpha silences any time, Bomber for some pressure. Golem can go down early or late to... I think we'll probably play Golem as a finisher. I don't quite want to give our opponent that mana crystal too early. Flesh-Eating Ghoul you folks picked, we can throw that down to get buffed up. Raid Leader for more pressure. We've actually got a very strong early game rush if we get a good combo of this up. Blessing of Kings can buff at any time. Consecrate for table clearance. Wrath for control. 3 Children Yetis really brings us into the mid-game. We can throw down, if we get those and we're throwing them out, then our opponent is just going to be having lots of awkward threats to deal with. And don't forget, we've got things like the Blessing of Kings, we've got things like Avengers that could suddenly turbo up any of our minions to very, very strong stages. So all of these minions we've got could just become bigger, badder and nastier at any particular point. So don't forget those. Gnomish Inventor, card draw and bridging into the mid to late game. Senjin, Shieldmaster, a bit of Taz Dingo will just give us protection for our other minions on the table. Azure Drake is a great bridge, and we'll get card draw 2. Darkscale Healers to top up our health and do some table trades. Faceless Manipulator, a tech situational card to make sure that we can copy our opponents or reinforce our own advantage, depending on what threats or opportunities are on the table at the time. Guardian of Kings, heal top up. Then our beautiful finisher, Tyrion Fordring. We will grab this Paladin in and do lots of damage with him indeed. I look forward to seeing what we can do with him. Right, I can't screen grab that in its entirety. If you guys are willing to remember that we have 3 Avenge, what I'll do is I'll try and get as much of that up on the screen as possible. And then what we'll do is jump on into a game or 2, and having built the deck together, taking your picks, we're going to test it out in practice and see how we go. So I'm looking forward to this. I think we've got a nice, strong concept for a deck. You've got some very nice picks. Let's see how it's going to work out for us. Maybe I should write... I'm going to write Avenge on top. Avenge times 3. And then I'm going to reduce the font size. I'm going to make a horrible mock-up on top, so you guys can see. Righty then, do give me just a second or two to finish saving this little debris. There we go. Come on, copy paste, you can do it. Oh, hang on. Why? Okay, that's not working. Why is it only 147 by 23? Do forgive me when I have this temporary Photoshop fail. Let's get this game on the road. Let's get ourselves picking a game and playing while I'm remembering how to use Adobe Photoshop. Drag all the way down and copy it, new file. Ah, I've just realised why I've been having problems. Copy. There we go. So, as we draw our first hand, we've got a couple of Avenges, very nice. The Chill Wind is okay, I don't mind that as a bridge, we're playing against a mage. I'm going to drop, I think, one Avenge back. I'm going to bin 2 of those, and hopefully, because I'm coining, I'm happy to keep the Yeti. Not quite so great. I was hoping, given the amount of early game cards that we have, I was hoping for to grab a few more early game pressure cards. So Arena, Pally, Avenge. Okay, so this is our turn 1. Not much going on there. Let's just throw down Avenge. Could have coined into a Fairy Dragon. No minions for them to destroy just yet. So we'll get Avenge down. I'd like probably to coin into a Yeti. Righty then. Down goes a Novice Inventor. I'll just pull up the deck list on the right hand side. Oh, you can't see my Avenge there for some reason. I'd photoshopped Avenge on top. Right, down goes a Fairy Dragon. When one of your minions dies, give a random minion. So let's see if he can trigger Avenge here and remove that. I may have played Avenge at the wrong time, playing it turn 1. We may have failed straight out of the door. So, okay, spells cost 2 less. That does mean he can throw down a spell, but of course he can't spell target this. So if I can get another minion down, which I can, then suddenly we start creating threats. Now remember, I cannot trigger this on my turn. So Avenge won't trigger on my turn. I don't like the fact that his spells are cheaper, but if I go for some trades, and then when a minion dies, another minion will get randomly friendly buffed. So he should really try and pick this off, and then that will buff up my dragon. But I want the 2 minions on the table so that Avenge triggers and gives a benefit. So if he kills one, the other gets benefit. And then I can, of course, by turn 4, I'll have 2 Chill Wind Yetis on the table. So he can, of course, have spells costing 1 less. There could be Frost Bolts or all kinds of things, but no, he's gone for a secret. Down goes the Armani Berserker. Avenge should not trigger with no target. Okay, give a random minion sometimes. There we go. 7/7. Yeah, now unless that's a Vaporize. If I've got a Vaporize, that could be quite nasty. So what am I going to do? I could throw down another Revenge. What I'm actually going to do is, if only I could throw down another Revenge. I'm going to start making some trades. Now, if that was a duplicate, okay, we're going to try and play around this Mage Secret now. So, if that was a duplicate, 2 would have gone back in hand, so we know it's not a duplicate. Have I played a spell yet? No. So it could be a counterspell. It's not a mirror entity. We've not attacked the hero yet, so it could be a nice barrier. It could be a nice block. It could be a spellbinder. So I think we're looking at probably a counterspell or a vaporize, or maybe an ice barrier. So in terms of reacting to that, what can we do? Well, I think the simple thing to do is just to keep pressuring away the minions. Right, do I want to grab another Revenge, or do I just want to bridge in with a Drake? I'm going to bridge in with a Drake. Now if I want to try and play around this Vaporize, he can of course destroy this next turn anyway, so I'm not going to get to attack with that. If I don't want to lose a damaging minion, I can wait a turn, or I can just attack to the face. I'm going to actually, for better or for worse, I'm going to tap and wait. I know that he'll remove this, but if I want to get something vaporised, I'm probably going to want to try and get Azure Drake vaporised rather than my 7/4. Down goes a Yeti of their own. Okay, so we've got a Faceless to get some pressure on, and Avenge will certainly mean that we can get some more pressure down too. Dynamic Inventor gives us a card draw. Consecrate, right, that will do 3, but that's not going to let us remove anything. I can trade that off the table with a Consecrate plus something else. What I'd really like to do is try and trigger through this secret, so for that reason I'm going to drop an Avenge. Then with these I can make the trade without having to trigger the secret. So let's go for this. I'm going to keep the table under firm control and try and trigger the secret at a point of my choosing. Now, I'm kind of almost too worried about Vaporize in this instance. It turns out if this was an Ice Armor I could have done a bunch more damage, so if I have misplayed, and there you go, the Flame Strike has just wiped out everything, meaning we have to start again, so I've lost all of that attacking potential. Down goes the Dynamic Inventor for the card draw, and I could give an extra mana crystal for a charge. I'm going to do so because I want to see what this secret is. Turns out it was a Vaporize, so I was correct. I don't mind that dying. Giving the extra mana crystal, let's see if that's going to be a downfall. Probably a little bit too eager to trigger that secret there, having lost everything. Down goes news. Well, no weapon for me to have destroyed. Down goes a Stormwind Champ, so that's quite nasty. I could grab one of those also. Consecrate will help us down but not out most of those. The Leponome will help us put pressure on. Do I want to Faceless? Any specific reason not to use the 1/1 I had to trigger it? I honestly can't remember if I had a 1/1 on the table at the time. I think it wasn't my turn. Okie dokie, so best for the trades. Well, I can remove this off the table. I can then clone it as well, to give them something to think about. Righty then, I'm going to grab my Faceless and we're going to start making a few trades. So I can actually even keep this alive, which is quite a bonus, even though it's going to take 2 mana for it to remove. Cool, so kind of committed to that. Cane of Cold, okay, that freezes all. Is he going to attack me to the face? And then out comes the Avenge, and please be on the chat. Oh, look at that. Avenge triggers on the Stormwind Champion. So 2 out of our 3 Avengers have been played. Oh, sounds like the Avengers, but that drops it down to 6. And then 6/6. Oh, down goes a Tazdingo, and I would imagine we'll see a straight up trade here. No, he's gone straight for the face. Interesting. Well, with these frozen, oh, so beautiful. Down goes Tyrion. I don't think there's any reason for us not to play it this turn. Is there any reason? We're frozen. Let's do it. There we go. Okay, down goes Tyrion. Thank you, Lud, for doing that for us. Oh, that's brilliant. Now this is where a Polymorph is probably going to come, or something. Yeah, you could just charge it off the table. Down goes a Flame Strike. Pain and suffering. All minions go down. Tyrion is a bit weaker. Fire Blast. Ooh, down to a 1. And we do get the trade. There they go. He will get the table completely clear, but I do get my Ashbringer to start having some fun with, and I do have my 9/1 minion. Choose a minion whenever it attacks, draw a card. Well, I'm going to have some fun. Let's attack to the face to start with, and draw. Oh, and another Avenge. Okay, so I'm going to have some fun here. Now, I'm actually going to go... I would have lethal next turn, yes, I know, if I'd attack to the face, but... He's actually... Okay, maybe the attack face play was a bit better there, because he's going to ping this away for 2 mana anyway, isn't he? That's just a very obvious removal. Okay, so maybe the Ashbringer to the face would have been a better play, but down goes our third avenge, creating a 4/3. Oh yeah, lovely. Oh, down goes a Ragnaros. Ouch. Double ouch. Oh, 12. Maybe this isn't quite over. Battle cry of restoring health. Quick. Right, so what do? I think I do this. Consecrate's not going to do huge amounts. Do I just go for the face? I'm just going to go for the face. Now, of course, you smart Alex among you will say, right, well, if you'd gone for the face to start with, you would have been done by now. We're almost there. Come on. What do you reckon? Down goes a gadget turn. If he'd thrown a Pyroblast, Arcane draws 2. And draws an additional 1 with the gadget turn. What can he do with the 2 mana? Down goes a Swordsmith. I think we are good. Victory FailCrafts. Lovely stuff. Oh, Ragnaros gets an extra 1 attack. Okay, so make the plays, good game, and there comes Tyrion, and well played guys, your deck is 1-0. Loving that. So in that game we saw a nice piece of early game control. We managed to keep our pressure on and kept the control plays. Fair points by a bunch of you in the chat saying that, you know, maybe we could have gone for the face with that Ashbringer a little bit earlier and we would have been done by now. So the decision as to whether to play control or not in the late game, or whether just to go for the face, it is true that with a lot of pally aggro-ish deck. Loving the confidence, people saying, oh, 1 win, 3 losses. Let's see if we can go 2-0. So this will be our final game. Now we have a Shaman. Okay, so our play technique is going to be exactly the same. We know the Shaman will throw up totems, they might be rushing, and this game, even though we're going first, we have a bit more early game options. I'm going to do a hard mulligan. I don't want that golem. If I get a few more 2 and 3 drops, Hammer of Wrath, yes, Consecrate, okay. So we can Dragon turn 2, and then if we still get that Arcane Golem, and it's coming back to haunt us. When I say smart Alex, I mean smarter than me, Alex. Do very much appreciate you guys pointing it out. Otherwise, how would I learn? There goes Fairy Dragon, so we've got some nice totem trading fodder there. And I believe we've got 3. Have we got? Yeah, we've got 3 Fairy Dragons. Down goes an Elven Archer. Okay, so he's going with the Archer to try and remove that. Next, we can Raid Leader. Why not? Let's Raid Leader. Smart Alex with an X. Fair enough, no problem. Okay, down goes our Fairy Dragon as expected. 3 mana, coining into a 4-drop. I'm expecting a Chillwind or something like that. Nope, Tazdingo. Nice, that's going to certainly put a crimp in our style. So a Hammer of Wrath. We can take that out with the Raid Leader, or we can throw down a Yeti. Personally, I'm quite happy to go and draw a card and then go for the trade. So, yeah, I do lose my Raid Leader, but on turn 5 I can Yeti, and then I can Yeti and Owl, or Yeti and Reinforce as well. Loot Hoarder, okay, some more charging in there, but we just want to keep minions under control and try and build up a minion advantage on the table. Of course, against the Shaman, they're going to be pumping the field full of totems, but we've got Consecrate in hand to deal with that, so I feel quite confident. I think we just go for a Yeti this turn, and then a Yeti next turn. And the Owl is just nice to have in hand. Could Golem it out, so it's a fair point, Niska. I'm just... Because we're not full on aggro, if we were full on just trying to smash our opponent down, I'd have no qualms about playing a Golem as soon as it turned up. Just because we quite like bridging to the late game, I almost feel that we play the Golem potentially in the late game as a nice sort of getting things out or things like that. Just depends. Now we've got our Tyrion. I can silence away this. I can drop my Yeti. Consecrate will let me remove various things. So I'm actually just going to set up the full-on. Look, I'm not going to have to trade away that tank. What are you going to do now? Could Golem out the Taz Dingo, says Nuska. Yeah, I think that Golem is now looking more likely. We don't need the 6 here with Guardian. Perhaps a Consecrate and a Golem will get us what we need here. And of course we are very nicely positioned to bridge into Tyrion and get some real pressure on in this mid-game. So, no doubt, Shamans do of course have lots of cheap control spells, so I fully expect that we could see this Chill and Yeti either being traded. Wind Speaker gives friendly minion Wind Fury, and of course that is going to live to remove 2 minions now. Oh, and a Stoneclaw as well, so the Taz Dingo, even though it has no tank, can be used very nicely, probably to take 2 minions off the table. And there we go, very nicely done. And a little heal up at 2. So now we can play. I'm thinking, do we want to risk the Arcane? Do we Consecrate? Guardian of Kings, I kind of want to save. That means that does... got him with the raid leader. Very, 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 very good point. That is feeling like a Consecrate. Consecrate plus or minus S. We don't need no S. Niska's on the ball. We'll throw down the Consecrate. Now, do we Golem or Avenge? Or both Consecrate and Golem? I'm feeling the Consecrate and Golem because that will just stack some nice pressure on. But I also like the Avenge because I feel he's probably going to remove something. Well, actually, there's no point in avenging unless we reinforce and avenge. Let's take a risk. Let's throw out the Golem. Now, obviously, I'm going to take the trade of the 3 damage onto the Yeti and then charge him with the Golem. So, I have put him on 8 mana, of course. But don't forget, I can Tyrion next turn, and the streets will be paved with gold. Unless he plays a Hex straight away. Unless he plays a Sunwalker. I bet you he's got a Hex as well. And I was almost expecting a Stoneclaw there. Okay, so the Mad Bomber could give us some fun. Now, do I actually want to drop a Tyrion? That is the question. Tyrion will certainly give me an ability to put some pressure on, and then I can sack this off the table. I'm going to, for better or for worse, I'm going to YOLO Bomber, hoping that 1 gets done on that. Come on, come on. Oh, not quite. Right, in that case we kind of got no option. It was a mistake, but Tyrion means you can just ignore your minions. Very, very true, Niska. So do I just want to attack this and set it up for a fall? I'm thinking no. Or am I not going to attack? I'm not going to attack because I'd like to trigger this with something smaller rather than sacrifice 2 big minions on it. And of course, sitting there with Avenge, if he does decide to trade minions rather than hit face, I've got several solutions. Down goes a Scarlet Crusader, another bubble, 6 health. I'm almost hoping we can bake out a Hex. Down goes a Boulder Fist. So, table getting strong, but with Avenge we have options. I've got the token that we can use to tip away this bubble. Alrighty then, so the Guardian of Kings, it's almost time for the Guardian of Kings, I think. Now, correct combos. So a fairy, and that feels like a bit of a waste. I think now is the time to Guardian, and then we can fairy. It puts us in a very nice strong ball position. We can then tip this away with 2 minions. DOS. So the 1 tip is obviously a sensible play. Now I guess it's just going to be these 2. We'll remove that. And we'll keep the pressure firmly on face. 16 health, of course. Shamans do have heals in their bank. There is lots of damage here. but by keeping the pressure on Face here, we're meaning that he has to make the trades, or they have to make the trades, and we don't. We are the ones with the, if you like to call it, the tempo, the momentum. Fairy Dragon him back. Oh, a very strong board from our Shaman also. And don't forget, of course, that if he pops a Bloodlust, that could be a lethal right there. Now, here come the trades. Avenge comes in. What's going to get the buff? Oh, Fairy Dragon gets buffed off. So if he really wants to, he can remove it with the Boulder Fist. Now he has managed to wrest board control back off us, so this is not the greatest of positions, it has to be said. Okay, so options. Can we trade the Warlord? No, we cannot. I think it has to be time for Tyrion now. Now the real question is, do we face or not? Right, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's 23 damage on this table. We can minimise that to 17. Tyrion, we can probably look to trade a couple. Tyrion will get binned with the bubble or similar. There's no doubt that he will remove some things. Tyrion and reinforce. Yep, agree with that. But the real question is, oh, face him, you reckon? Okay, we'll go with you and go with the face option. So we do have lethal next turn. So the real question is, we're still... yep, it's a universal vote for face. Well, we will get a 5/3 Ashbringer. Down goes an elemental. I'm just waiting to see if there's a hex. If there's a hex, then we shall weep. Feral spirits. Ugh. And that only actually drops one. Oh no! No, there goes the hex. Right, we are not going to be able to quite face him down. There goes the trade. I'm going to wait for the chat to catch up. I know there's a slight lag and delay. Oh, so close. Right. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. We were so close. Right, I think that we're pretty much doomed. Okay, so we can draw a card, 19 damage, 2, 10, 13, 16, 19, 21. Fabulous stuff. Right, shall we, yep, Hamish Inventor. Blessing of Wisdom. We could have known first, this is true. Only got a blessing. And there we go, and there's a GG. So thank you folks, as we get ourselves knocked off the table. It was really for the lack of a hex. That hex finished us off good and proper. Sad times. But it was a good game, and you saw the strengths of our deck. Our deck would have worked well. It's just working out when to play that Tyrion when we had to try and block some of this off. I know the slight lack of control against the Warlord. We just couldn't get that removed. So let us do it. Name was pulled by the Drake. That is true. Spellmaster. Oh, at least we got some gold. So there we go, from an optimistic start, that is us at 1-1, and we will finish this at some point later in the week. So thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's Hearthstone half hour. A bit more than an hour, of course, on Arena Tuesdays. I should probably rename it. And do join us if you've seen us on YouTube. Come join live, twitch.tv/FailCraft Cast, Monday through Friday. The schedule is below on the bottom left. Check on @FailCraft Cast on Twitter. We always tweet when we're going to go live. Do, of course, check out youtube.com/FailCraft Casts there on the left. Over 100 Hearthstone half hours and a bunch of stuff, whether it's deck building, deck tips, Arena Tuesdays like we've done today, laddering, other tips and tricks and similar, and other games too. Heroes of the Storm and more. Then last but not least, website failcraft.org, and we'll be back tomorrow if you are live for Arena Wednesday. Otherwise, if you're on YouTube or anywhere else, thank you for tuning in, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you soon.